It was a quiet night in the small town of Crestwood, where the streetlights flickered lazily over empty sidewalks. The only sounds were the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hum of a passing car. But inside an old, two-story house at the edge of town, something far more sinister was unfolding. Detective Ian Mercer had seen his fair share of crime scenes, but nothing quite like this. The call had come in at 2:13 a.m. A neighbor reported hearing a loud thud, followed by a muffled scream. When Mercer arrived, the front door was slightly ajar, creaking in the cold night breeze. He pushed it open and stepped inside, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The living room was in disarray, furniture overturned, glass shards on the floor, and a single bloody handprint smeared across the coffee table. As he moved deeper into the house, he found a trail of smeared footprints leading upstairs. The wooden steps groaned under his weight as he ascended cautiously, his hand resting on his holstered gun. At the top of the stairs, the hallway was lined with old, faded wallpaper that peeled at the corners. A single door at the end of the hall was slightly open. Mercer nudged it wider and stepped in. The room was dimly lit by the streetlight outside. A woman lay motionless on the floor, her blonde hair spread around her like a halo. Blood pooled beneath her head, soaking into the pale blue carpet. Mercer knelt beside her and pressed two fingers to her neck. No pulse. He exhaled sharply, his breath visible in the cold air. There were no immediate signs of a struggle, but something felt off. The window was open, curtains billowing. Had the killer escaped that way? He stood and scanned the room. A wooden dresser stood against the wall, drawers slightly open. Jewelry boxes were tipped over, their contents spilled. Robbery gone wrong? It was possible. But then he noticed something strange, an old photograph in a shattered frame on the floor. He picked it up carefully. The image was of the victim, smiling, her arm around a man Mercer didn't recognize. But there was something else. A red X was marked over the man's face. A warning? A message? He studied it for a moment before tucking it into his pocket. The sound of footsteps downstairs made him tense. He drew his gun and moved quickly, his pulse steady. "Police!" he called out. "Show yourself." Silence. He reached the bottom of the stairs and turned toward the kitchen. The back door was open. Someone had been there. Had they come back to finish the job? He stepped outside, scanning the yard. The grass was damp, footprints leading toward the alley. He followed cautiously. The alley was narrow, lined with trash bins and a rusting chain-link fence. He paused, listening. A faint scuffling sound to his left. He turned just in time to see a figure darting away. "Stop!" he shouted, breaking into a run. The figure was fast, weaving through the darkness with practiced ease. Mercer pursued, his shoes pounding against the pavement. They rounded a corner, and suddenly the figure slipped into an abandoned warehouse. Mercer followed, gun raised. The air inside was thick with dust and decay. Dim moonlight filtered through broken windows, casting long shadows. He moved carefully, ears straining for any sound. Then, a whisper. He turned sharply, gun aimed. "Come out," he commanded. A sudden movement. Mercer barely had time to react before something heavy swung toward him. He ducked instinctively, the object missing his head by inches. He rolled forward, raising his weapon. "Drop it," he ordered. The figure hesitated, breath ragged. Then a sharp laugh. "You're too late," the voice rasped. A man stepped into the light, a gaunt face, eyes wild. He was holding a crowbar. "She had to die," the man continued, voice almost calm now. Mercer tightened his grip on the gun. "Who are you?" The man tilted his head. She knew too much. Knew what? A smirk. Secrets. The kind that get people killed. Before Mercer could press further, the man lunged. Mercer fired. The shot echoed through the warehouse, and the man crumpled, the crowbar clattering to the floor. Mercer moved cautiously, keeping his gun trained. The man groaned, clutching his bleeding side. "It doesn't matter," he coughed. "It's bigger than me." Paramedics arrived minutes later, loading the wounded suspect into an ambulance. Mercer watched, jaw tight. Back at the station, he sifted through old case files. The victim's name was Emily Carter, a local journalist. She had been investigating something that had gotten her killed. He found her last article draft on her laptop, recovered from the crime scene. The title chilled him. The Crestwood Conspiracy. She had been onto something. And now, Mercer had to find out what.